Hello, and welcome back to Daily English Practice, the podcast where we help you improve your English skills for real-world situations. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rose. It's great to have you with us today.
So, Rose, today we have a topic that I think is, well, it's crucial for everyone, not just in English, but in any language. It's something we all face at work, with friends, even with family.
That's right. Today we're talking about how to politely disagree with someone because, let's be honest, it can be really uncomfortable, can't it? You want to share your opinion, but you don't want to offend the other person or start an argument.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, but mastering this skill can make your communication so much more effective and, honestly, make your relationships stronger. So, we're going to break it down with some really useful phrases and a real-life example.
Sounds perfect. Let's dive in.
All right, so first things first, why is this so hard? I mean, why do we get that knot in our stomach when we have a different opinion?
That's such a good question. I think for a lot of people, it comes down to a fear of conflict. We're often taught from a young age that arguing is bad, so we associate disagreement with fighting, but they're not the same thing at all.
Right, not the same thing. Healthy disagreement is actually productive. It's how new ideas are born. But yeah, that instinct to just nod and smile is strong.
It is. And there's also the social aspect. We want to be liked. We want to belong to the group. Disagreeing can feel like you're separating yourself from others, which can be a little scary socially.
That makes sense. It's like you're rocking the boat. And for English learners, there can be an added layer of difficulty, right? You might worry that your language isn't precise enough, or that you'll accidentally sound rude because of a cultural difference.
Exactly. That's why having some go-to phrases is so important. They act like a safety net. They give you a structure to express your own ideas without causing offense.
Okay, so let's get into those phrases. Where should we start?
I think the most important first step is always to acknowledge the other person's point of view. Show that you've heard them and that you respect their opinion, even if you don't share it.
Validate first. So what would that sound like?
Well, you could use phrases like, I see what you're saying, but, or, that's a valid point, however. Another great one is, I understand where you're coming from, and I'd like to add, it's gentle. It creates a bridge, not a wall.
I like that. A bridge, not a wall. So if someone said, I think we should move our deadline up by a week, instead of just saying, no, that's impossible, I could say,
You could say, I see what you're saying about wanting to finish early, but I'm concerned we might sacrifice quality if we rush. See? It shows you understand their goal before you introduce your concern.
that's so much better. Okay, so after acknowledging their point, what's next?
The next strategy is to use softening language. These are words and phrases that make your opinion sound less like a hard, absolute fact and more like a suggestion or a personal perspective.
So instead of that's wrong, you'd say something like,
You could say, I'm not so sure about that, or I see it a little differently. Other good ones are, from my perspective, or it seems to me that. It frames it as your view, not a universal truth.
that's a great tip. It's less confrontational. Another thing I find helpful is phrasing your disagreement as a question. It invites discussion instead of shutting it down.
Oh, I love that. Can you give us an example?
Sure, let's say your colleague suggests a marketing slogan you don't like. Instead of saying, I don't like that slogan, you could ask, that's an interesting idea. Have you considered how our older customers might react to that wording?
Right. Or I wonder what would happen if we tried a different approach. It makes it collaborative. You're exploring the problem together.
Exactly. And that brings us to our last main strategy, which is using I statements. It's related to the softening language you mentioned, Rose.
Yes, this is key. Focus on your own feelings and perspective. Instead of saying, your plan won't work, you say, I'm concerned that this plan might have some challenges, or I feel we should explore other options.
It's impossible to argue with someone's feelings. It completely changes the tone from an accusation to an expression of personal concern. It's a game changer.
It really is. So, to recap, we have four big strategies. One, acknowledge their point. Two, use softening language. Three, ask questions. And four, use I statements.
Perfect. You know what? I think it would be really helpful to hear these in action. Should we do a little role play?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine we are two colleagues, Mark and Sarah, planning a launch party for a new product. I'll be Mark, and Rose, you can be Sarah.
Got it. I'm ready.
All right, Sarah. I've been thinking about the launch party, and I have a great idea. We should rent out that huge, expensive nightclub downtown, hire a famous DJ, and make it a massive event. It'll create so much buzz. We have to go big.
Wow, that definitely sounds like a memorable party, Mark. I understand where you're coming from with wanting to create a lot of buzz. That's a great goal.
Right? It would be amazing.
It would be. From my perspective, though, I'm a little concerned about the budget. An event like that could get very expensive very quickly. I feel that maybe we should consider an option that's a bit more focused on our key clients and industry press rather than a huge public party.
But a smaller party might not get us the same media attention. We need to make a splash.
That's a valid point. Media attention is important. Have you considered that a more exclusive event at an art gallery or a nice restaurant could still feel very high-end and attract the right kind of press? It seems to me that we could create a more targeted buzz that way and also stay within our budget. What do you think?
An exclusive event at an art gallery. I hadn't thought of that. It could be classy. We could still make it feel special. Okay, I'm not totally against it. Let's look at some venues and compare the costs.
Great. I think that's a good plan.
And scene.
Okay, that was great. Jack, you were a very enthusiastic Mark.
I tried, but you did a brilliant job, Rose. Let's break down what you did. You started by saying, I understand where you're coming from. That was perfect acknowledgement.
Thanks. Then I used from my perspective and I feel that, which are those I statements and softeners we talked about. I wanted to make sure I was expressing my concern without attacking your idea.
And it worked. I didn't feel defensive. And then you hit me with the question, have you considered? That opened my mind to a new possibility. And you validated my point about media attention before presenting your alternative. It was all very smooth.
And in the end, we reached a compromise. That's the goal, to find the best solution together, not to win the argument.
You know, this brings up a really important point we haven't touched on yet, cultural differences. The way we disagree is so tied to our cultural background. The phrases we've shared are generally safe and effective in most English-speaking environments, but the directness can vary a lot. Absolutely. So, just as important as what to do, let's quickly cover a few things to avoid. The big one is using overly direct or aggressive language. Just saying, you're wrong or that's a bad idea will immediately put someone on the defensive.
That's such a critical point, Jack. In some cultures, like in the United States or Germany, people tend to be very direct. They value clear, straightforward communication. Saying, I disagree is often not seen as rude, but as honest and efficient. Right, avoid making it personal, too. Don't say things like, I can't believe you would suggest that. Focus on the idea, not the person. And also watch out for your tone of voice and body language if you're in person. A sarcastic tone can ruin even the most polite words.
Such a good point. Tone is everything.
Well, this has been a fantastic discussion. I feel much more confident about navigating disagreements now. So for our listeners, the key takeaways are to listen and acknowledge, soften your language, ask questions, and focus on I statements.
That's it in a nutshell. And our challenge for you this week is to try it. Find a low-stakes opportunity to use one of these phrases. Maybe when you're deciding what movie to watch with a friend, or discussing a simple task at work. Practice makes perfect.
A great suggestion. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Daily English Practice.
We'll be back next week with another episode to help you on your English learning journey. Until then, keep practicing.